26 years ago when we were here, and we remember that the water level was much higher, and we were actually quite surprised at how deep it was, how shallow it was. Lake Mead was artificially created in 1936 to supply the growing Las Vegas area, and is currently the largest reservoir in the United States. Formed recently, it is Sprint. Recently revealed long-buried secrets and other puzzling discoveries, from numerous human remains to sunken World War II boats. This lake casts a shadow over the bright neon lights of Vegas. So stay tuned as we uncover the details of the terrifying discoveries around the lake. Las Vegas is famous for many things including casinos, restaurants, shows, and lavish parties. However, in addition to the famous attractions, Sin City is surrounded by national and state parks that offer the best scenery and other aspects of the natural world. Topping this list is Lake Mead, which is fed by the Colorado River that originates in the Rocky Mountains. The river is fed by snow melt in the spring and also supplies water to other bodies of water, such as the Las Vegas Wash, Virgin, and Muddy rivers. However, in recent years, climate change and human activities have threatened these waters with a devastating drought in the American West. As a result, the water level from the Hoover Dam that created the lake dropped. The dam is a vital part of the vast Colorado River basin, which has been hit hard by drought, and the recent drop in water levels is dangerously close to the point where the river can no longer flow. The lake is actually at its lowest level since it was filled in 1937. Endangering both hydroelectric power generation and a vital source of water for millions of people. Estimates suggest that more than 1.3 million people derive their energy from the lake and another 25 million depend on it as their source of water. According to the National Park Service, the drought has affected recreation on the lake, with some areas and marinas closed due to low water levels. Michael Green, an associate history professor at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, said it was inevitable to find things in the water, but it doesn't reduce the fact that it has been depressing to observe how the lake has shrunk. Islands have formed, bathtub rings have formed, and the marina has been pushed further and further out. Additional information also revealed that a reshaping of the park shorelines has been caused by the declining water levels due to climate change and 20 years of prolonged drought. The water's receding levels have inadvertently drawn people's attention to the objects being revealed by the drought, as it could reveal hidden secrets and also highlight the fragility of the critical ecosystem that maintains society. The beginning of a wave of discoveries was marked when some boats came across a barrel in May. A man's remains were found inside the barrel, and officials have claimed that the victim was shot between the middle of the 1970s and the beginning of the 1980s. Imagine being stuck in a barrel and buried beneath a lake for decades. Michael Green, an associate history professor at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, said it was inevitable to find things in the water, but it doesn't reduce the fact that it has been depressing to observe how the lake has shrunk. Islands have formed, bathtub rings have formed, and the marina has been pushed further and further out. The beginning of a wave of discoveries was marked when some boats came across a barrel in May. A man's remains were found inside the barrel, and officials have claimed that the victim was shot between the middle of the 1970s and the beginning of the 1980s. Imagine being stuck in a barrel and buried beneath a lake for decades. According to the local mob museum, the murder bears the hallmarks of a mob hit and occurred during the most violent period of Las Vegas's past, an era of tremendous street crime and underworld homicides. However, the terrifying human remains. Discoveries do not stop there. The week following that, find two sisters who were paddle boarding on the lake, stumbled upon what they initially believed to be the bones of a big horned sheep, but were actually another set of human remains. Recently, for the sixth time this year, another set of bodies from the past have been discovered by lowering water levels at Lake Mead. The National Park Service said that a dive team from outside the park was able to locate the skeletal remains after learning of a diver's discovery of a human bone, one set of bones discovered in the Colville Bay. Eventually proved to be that of Father Thomas ERT 42, who drowned in 2002, according to Medical Examiner. The Clark County Coroner's Office said that they are still looking into previously discovered partial sets of remains to determine how many people in total have been discovered from the depths this year. It is, however, unclear whether the bone and remains are from the same person, unlike earlier finds, such as the first body which was discovered in a barrel in one. In May, Ray Spencer, a lieutenant with the Las Vegas police, asserted that there is a very strong likelihood that the water level drops further. There is a likelihood that additional human remains are going to be located. The thought that there could be so many secrets in a relatively recently constructed lake is kind of terrifying. Again, a concerned individual recently informed the park rangers of additional human remains along the beefs that were partially covered in mud. And according to a statement from the park, the investigation on that report is still. Officials anticipate more disturbing discoveries and have already had several complaints from tourists about what they initially believed to be human remains, but turned out to be animal bones or skeletal props used by nearby scuba divers years before. However, there are more than just bodies in the water that enters the Colorado River, and experts predict that as the lake's bathtub ring expands, additional discoveries will be. However, perhaps the most significant discovery found yet in the lake hasn't been the human remains, but something entirely different and completely unexpected. The most recent discovery from this reservoir that divides Nevada and Arizona is a sunken boat from the Second World War between 1942 and 1945. Higgins Industries in New Orleans produced a large number of landing craft, according to the Las Vegas Review. On D-Day, June 6, 1944, over 1,500 Higgins boats were deployed in Normandy. This marks the continued discovery of many additional historical artifacts as the Drought unearthed the sunken ship from the Second World War. It was built to transport troops into beachfront combat during deployment at Normandy, and according to diving tour provider Las Vegas Scuba, it was once used to survey the Colorado. Before being sold to the marina, after which it sank, the boat was just the most recent discovery made as a result of Lake Mead's dropping water levels. But hold on to your horses, as you'd be surprised to learn that this isn't the only transport craft that Lake Mead has swallowed. A B-29 aircraft that has been hidden by the depths are starting to surface for the first time in decades. In Normandy, there were replicas of the Higgins landing craft, which were used to survey the Colorado River until being bought by the marina. The Higgins landing craft, which has been 185 feet below the water surface for some time, is now almost halfway out. And even though part of the craft is still deep below the surface, this is the first time in decades the plane has been seen in light. Yet another discovery has been a lake with houseboats in it, which is significantly smaller due to the drought, as can be seen by the dry hillsides. The barren hillsides around the lake, where the houseboats are located, show how much the lake has been diminished by the drought. A bridge extends across the deserted area in the distance as critically low water levels in California's main reservoirs indicate an impending dry summer. The distance between the boat and Hemingway Harbor and Lake Mead Marina is less than a mile. You might not have known this, but experts have noted that since Lake Mead is an artificial body of water, which was created when the Hoover Dam was built, it submerged St. Thomas, a Mormon community established in 1865. One of the town's final residents reportedly left in 1938 after the floods reached his front door. The settlement has been visible for the past 10 years due to declining lake levels, which have repeatedly exposed St. Thomas throughout the years, according to Green, who teaches the history of Nevada and Las Vegas. The lake also covered archaeological digs, suggesting there may be artifacts from the past submerged in the water. The Puebloan people who lived in the region about 1,000 years earlier are thought to have left behind some archaeological relics, Green speculated. He also mentioned that a nearby museum contains artifacts from them as until the lakes started to rise around. Archaeologists were working there since 1983 when the Colorado River overwhelmed the spillways of the dam. The volume of water in an enormous reservoir has decreased by more than 170 feet. The Colorado River Basin has been burdened by excessive extraction, intense heat, and decreased snowmelt, and it has suffered from droughts over the past 2 decades. Officials predict that the result of this is that Lake Mead's water levels will continue to drop. However, the levels have slightly recovered since this summer's record-breaking lows, and Lake Mead is presently 27% full. States in the western U.S. fear severe cuts to the Colorado River supplies as water levels fall at Lake Mead and Lake Powell upstream on the Arizona-Utah border. The hydropower generated at Hoover Dam and Glen Canyon Dam, which hold back Lake Powell, is also impacted by the lower levels. To support Lake Powell, water has to be released from various reservoirs in the upper basin of Wyoming, Colorado, and Utah, as the majority of the river is used by farmers. All in all, however, the damage done by the drought has outweighed the amazing discoveries. The outcomes are evidence of the extreme drought conditions affecting the American West, and they are only expected to get worse over the following few years. So tell us, what did you think about these discoveries, and do you think there's still more to find as the water levels go lower? And if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like and share it with your friends. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for more.